Hey there, for those for the first time on my channel, my name is Zach. I'm 23 years old Russian who left Russia because of the war against Ukraine, and today we are going to observe what has happened in Russia in the past couple days. Without further ado, let's get to it. Here's a piece from the Russian Propaganda channel. It's interesting they came up with a discussion about coronavirus, and apparently they are blaming Ukraine for the whole pandemic in the whole world. Let's see what they have to say.
Помнить историю с ковидом. Ведь ковид у нас распространился как раз с территории Украины.
He says we just need to remember the history of COVID, because COVID has spread from Ukraine.
В частности, из Мерефы. Это возле Харькова крупнейшая
To be precise, from Kharkiv region.
военно-биологическая лаборатория США.
He said there is the biggest bio laboratory of the United States is located there.
В 19 году, в октябре,
I like the banner in the back with like Ukrainian trizoup and bunch of like nuclear related poison or whatever.
году, в октябре месяце, компания Метабиотов,
In 2019, the company Meobiota, he said,
которая имеет интересы Хантер Байден,
in which Hunter Biden was involved and has interest,
получила от Пентагона большой транш, $26 миллионов.
They've got $26 million from Pentagon
На исследование коронавируса.
to learn about coronavirus. Okay, so he says in 2019, Pentagon, together with Hunter Biden, before actually Biden was a president, they've paid this biolab, which was an American lab, in Kharkiv region, to learn about coronavirus. And okay, let's see what else he has to say.
Напомню, это было за 2 месяца до начала пандемии.
He says it was 2 months before the start of the pandemic. Andrei Tkachov, a person, character of a really common rubric in my channel. He is a priest of the Russian Orthodox Church. He decided to tell people that they do not deserve better government.
Полстраны лжесвидетелей, даже 70%. Говорит, там, власть плохая. Там, ну, а кто...
Half of the country is saying, almost 70%, that our government is bad.
Что власть, что у нас там, Архангел Михаил во власти там.
And he says, but I'm not saying that we have Archangel Mikhail in power.
С Архангелом Гавриилом там сидят, как бы там и псалмы поют. Нет, у нас простые люди во власти.
No, we got regular people in power.
Но что она плохая с утра до вечера, как бы это тоже ложь.
But it's a lie that our government is bad at everything.
Это ложь.
It's a
Да даже
lie.
если она была бы плохая, это что, достоин лучшего, что ли?
And if our government would be better, do you really deserve this?
Ты вообще хоть раз подумал вообще, что ты...
Have you ever thought about it that you, interesting, he says you, in Russian it's ты, but there is two ways of saying you. It's a formal version, вы, and informal version, ты. And usually when you are talking to an audience, like if you were on a TV, you would say вы because it's more formal. But here, he's like a freaking gopnik on the street saying like ты, you don't deserve better government.
Пакость такая.
He just basically cursed people who watch him, and he's a Russian priest, by the way. He said like, you bastards,
Достоин лучшего.
you don't deserve better.
Это я сейчас говорю так в воздух, на всякий случай. Я уверен, что пакость почувствует.
I'm just saying it for everyone, but I'm pretty sure the people who need it, they will understand it. They will get it.
Любая пакость, которую ты услышишь, она тут же встрепенется, скажет, что это он меня обзывает.
And people who are gonna hear this, they're gonna get offended.
Нормальный человек подумает, это не про меня.
But the normal person's gonna think, okay, it's not about me.
Пакость тут же поймет, что это я про него сказал. А ты что, достоин лучшей власти?
And he's asking this bastards he's referring to, do you really deserve a better government?
А почему ты считаешь, что недостоин Сталина опять?
Why do you think you don't deserve Stalin again? Oh wow, he's threatening he's threatening people with Stalin. Bro, I got bad news. Historically, the Russian Orthodox Church during USSR, and especially during the Stalin's time, was one of the first victims to fall down from the crimes committed by communists. And believe me, you want to return to Stalin times, you are not gonna be as safe as you think you would.
Когда грешник критикует власти, он грешит.
When a person is criticizing the government, he commits a sin.
Когда святой человек критикует власти,
When a holy person criticizes the government,
он совершает волю Божию.
he is doing what the God has told him to do. Yeah, so basically Andrei Tkachев doesn't want regular people to criticize the government. He says that only holy people can criticize the government, and I would expect it. By holy people, he means people of the Russian Orthodox Church. So I guess he also wants some power in the government. Maybe it was like a message to the government, like, hey, you need holy people. I don't think so, to be honest. I think if Andrei Tkachев would be a leader of Russia, we would have something even worse than the USSR probably, where they would kill people for doing an abortion or something. Yeah, I don't think so, Andrei Tkachев. But thank you for being a part of my usual common rubric, Andrei Tkachев and his schizo statements. Russian government has published a project of the budget for the next couple of years, and apparently they have decided to decrease the money that they were supposed to pay for the social needs. Mostly it's pensions for retired people, like Medicaid and all other money for disabled people or children from orphanage who are supposed to receive apartments when they turn 18. So they decided to spend 10% less money of the federal budget in the next couple of years to put more money in the military. Well, they are waging a war, and apparently they don't care for their own people. Putin doesn't care if a bunch of people would just go and die because they can't even afford to buy regular medicine because inflation is really high. I was showing in my previous videos that Russian central bank has literally 19% of a federal funds rate, meaning that inflation is at least about the same, or is being planned to be about the same in the next year. Supposedly, to match the inflation, the Russian budget for those social needs should be increased at least by the same percentage that the federal funds rate was increased, which is 19%. But in practice, it's actually being decreased by 10%. So they really just don't want old people and people who are dependable on the government to get no money, because all the money needs to be sent to the front lines to build new tanks and to kill more Ukrainians. In 2025, they are planning to spend 22% more money on national security, as they say it, but it's basically military. So overall, in 2025, 40% of all tax money, all the money of the federal budget, are going to go towards military and law enforcement. And law enforcement is needed for Putin to protect himself for potential uprisings. More than a year ago, I have published a video explaining how did I grow up not being brainwashed, because in Russian school and overall, like in Russia, kids are really potentially in danger for being brainwashed by the government, because most of their family members, they watch TV, which owned by the government, they read newspapers, which are owned by the government. So basically, the only point of view you get was governmental point of view. However, some of the books which I was learning when I was in middle school and high school were written in the 90s, when Russia just experienced the collapse of the USSR, when there were more freedom compared to now. Even though people lived worse, but there was more freedom, and people could tell anything they want and not end up in jail. I used to study a lot of social sciences based on the books that were written in the 90s. So they almost had no censorship. And the main subject that really made me to think the realities of Russian politics was the so-called обществознание, which is literally a social science. If not for the social science subject, I would never know that there is a limitation on the presidential terms, because that's the subject where you learn constitution. This is kind of like a civic course combined with social studies, обществознание. And recently, Vladimir Medinsky, who is right now just one of the hands of Putin, he used to be a head of the Ministry of Education in Russia, basically the person who is kind of still in charge for education in Russia. And he says that we need to cancel обществознание as a subject. We need to stop teaching social sciences because it's just useless in the modern society. With me, when I was trying to learn social sciences, I would read a chapter about presidency, and like, hey, the president shouldn't be ruling the country more than 2 terms. And there is a reason for this, because it keeps democracy safe and it keeps the president from overtaking the power. However, then I try to count numbers of years Putin was in power, and it just doesn't match, okay? And it's just one of the examples what I was able to learn myself by reading social sciences books, обществознание. And now Vladimir Medinsky says that обществознание is useless, and I kind of agree that it's useless in the Russian scenario, just because whatever you read in the social sciences books written in the 90s about the so-called democratic Russian system, it's not true anymore. It was true for a really short time in the 90s, but later, whatever you're reading about in the social sciences books in Russia is just fully contradictory to reality. So yeah, in a way it's useless because it doesn't tell you about reality at all. But at the same time, it makes you to question the authority of the government. And that's one of the reasons they want this subject out of school. One of the Russian senators, Kutepov, in the higher bracket of the Russian parliament in a so-called Committee of Federation, he offered to add extra points to ladies who apply for university degree if they have a baby. So basically, in Russia, when you want to go into university, there are options. You can either get a free education or you can pay for your own education. To get a free education, you got to be semi-smart. You have to pass the Russian SAT really well, and if you've done it, you'll be able to get a university seat for free. However, there is a big competition, and even 1 or 2 points can really change your life. What kind of university are you going to study, or will you be able to qualify for the free education? This senator has offered to add maximum of extra points for women with children who get into university. And apparently it's not going to change a lot, but this is quite a big advantage, I would say. Because, for example, the maximum points you can get from 3 subjects, which are usually required by universities, is 300. 100 for one subject, so let's say it's a Russian language, it's history and social sciences. So in 3 subjects you can get 300. But you can also get about 15 or 20, depends on the university, extra points. And usually people have to participate in different kind of competitions to get those extra points. There is also, if you got a golden medal in school, basically you got all straight A+ in school, it will give you a couple points. But even if you were a A+ student, or valedictorian, I think that's how they call it in English here in the United States, it's still not as big of an advantage as just having a baby. Because Russia needs more babies for Putin to fight more wars. And this is one of the measures they are planning to do to get more babies. I would guess quite a few people recognize this series. It's called Twin Peaks. Personally, I love it. And what's funny is Kinopoisk, which is basically a Russian Netflix, owned by Yandex, which is owned by the government. So basically a governmental owned service. They have deleted a scene with a transgender character, because, well, there is a law about propaganda of LGBT people, and apparently it's prohibited to even show people who are not straight on the TV.
Мы с Деннисом Брайсоном вместе работали в Окленде. Он один из лучших умов в агентстве по борьбе с наркотиками.
That's where we meet this character, which is actually pretty fun and hilarious. I have nothing against the character itself in the series, because it's not all about this. But apparently, I mean, there is this whole scene with this character lasts for about 2 minutes. It's pretty long, actually. It's they talk to each other. There's a whole conversation for almost 2 minutes. However, when we watch the Russian edited version, basically this scene doesn't even exist. They mention the name, but they never show the actor and the character.
Я работал с Деннисом Брайсоном в Окленде. Один из умнейших людей в наркоконтроле. Мы в хороших руках.
And then there is a whole totally different scene. So they are afraid of even showing a character of a transgender nature, just because they might get fined from the government, even though it's a governmental platform. Basically, they are just afraid to do anything not to make the government angry. So it's not really surprising. It's just I'm surprised they've touched Twin Peaks, because Twin Peaks is such a favorite of mine, so I just wanted to tell you about it. This is one of the best universities in Moscow and in the whole Russia. It's called Higher School of Economics. Quite a good school. I know a couple of people who went there, and they say it's been worth it. It's really expensive and hard to get there. And apparently, one of the students, basically a freshman girl, who went to a bar, she decided to spit on the billboard of advertisement that was basically trying to get men into the military. Advertisement to sign a contract with the military of the Ministry of Defense to go fight in Ukraine. She decided to show her position, and she literally spit on the billboard. Apparently, somebody from the bar snitched on her, told about this to police, having no evidence, by the way, and no video proof of anything else. And apparently, she got fined. She got arrested by the cops first from the bar, and then she got fined for 40,000 of rubles, which is about $500, which is like a monthly salary somewhere in the regions of Russia, for basically spitting on a billboard. I'm still glad that in this university there are still smart kids who know what is right and what is wrong. A young man got arrested at his own house by the police because while he was texting on the Russian social media called VK with his friend about a computer game, they were discussing craft of some kind of ammunition and gun in a computer game. But apparently FSB, they have the filters to go through all the social media messages, at least on VK, and to find those that could potentially lead to any kind of danger or violence. And apparently here's a screenshot of their conversation. His friend is just saying, I made an ammo, I spent like a whole day for this, you owe me salitre and coal to make gunpowder. And apparently they just literally discuss some kind of craft. I don't know what game it is, maybe a Rust or something, where you have to craft your own guns and your own ammo. And because FSB literally has a system, they literally read everyone's messages. They can come up for a guy who was discussing crafting guns in a computer game and arrest him. Russian Academy of Science has complained that in a lot of post-Soviet countries, which are semi-friendly to Russia, like Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, and others, Russia is being portrayed as a colonizer, as an aggressor. And they have literally sent notes to those countries, like to Armenia, for example, in which book it says that Armenia was taken by Russia, not like rejoined, like Russia likes to say. And apparently they are just pissed off because all the countries are teaching their people real history, that after the communist revolution, communists, once they were done fighting whites inside of Russia, they were pretty expansionist and they went to other republics that wanted to claim independence and brought them back and made this whole USSR thing. This is a memorial to oppressed people of the USSR who were killed in this Kashtanskaya mountain in the city of Tomsk, basically kind of in Siberia. And apparently mayor's office is pissed off because they cannot get it out of that place. And apparently, I guess they don't want to make Putin sad, because right now Russia is trying to whitewash what Stalin and USSR has done to the Russian people. In the 30s, USSR have killed enormous amount of men for potential treason. There is a great book, Archipelago Gulag by Solzhenitsyn. You know, he'll tell it better than I will. But the thing is that right now, Russia wants to forget what happened. Even though in the 90s, they started to go through this trauma. They started to accept the fact that yes, our authorities has killed a lot of people just for nothing. And we have to keep it in mind so this would not happen. As Putin wants repressions to continue, he wants people to forget what has happened in the USSR. That is why they want to get those memorials gone. So here, for example, a memorial to Kluyev Nikolai Alexeyevich, who was born in 1884 and died in 1937. He was a poet, and he was killed on either 23rd or 25th of October in 1937 at this place. Here's another one, Kruchin Alexander Ilyich, born in 1906, killed in 1937. He was a musician, and he was killed at that place on 19th of November 1937, together with his father and sister. Another case of Ilyin Rostislav Sergeyevich, who was killed on 1937. same year, same place. He was a geologist and geographist, one of the researchers who were studying Siberia. And apparently he was killed on 1937. And Putin wants people to forget about all those people who were killed for nothing, so they can do the same. Like what one of the professors from the Russian Humanitarian University has said, Nikolai Eple, about it. The memory of Stalin's terror is painful for the Russian authorities because they identify themselves with the same forces that ruled the Soviet Union. And from the outset, Putin's attitude towards this memory has been tense. But after the annexation of Crimea in 2014, it has been systematically destroyed. Memorial was declared a foreign agent and banned, and so on. Now we are in the next phase where it is proposed to view the victims of the Soviet repression in terms of us and them. So if the Poles are victims of Katyn, they are most likely them, and one must be cautious here because it gives the enemy an opportunity to manipulate us. Ultimately, the refusal to remember the repression signifies a desire to repeat them. That's what Nikolai Eple said about Putin's desire to destroy memory of Stalin's repressions in Russia. This is a video from high school number 7 in the city of Aha in Sakhalin, really far from Moscow, basically other side of Russia. Over there, they decided to show high schoolers how abortion procedure looks like. You see this blurred part of the video and this red piece of something? This is basically an abortion being filmed. And they've decided to show it to high schoolers to prevent ladies from doing an abortion. And they've literally shown it, not blurred by the way. It's blurred here for a reason of YouTube. But apparently, it was just like this. It's literally a procedure. Okay, well, show people the surgery on the spine with no censorship, with no blurred screen. I bet a lot of people would not want to do that after this. This is a really manipulative way of changing somebody's mind of not making an abortion or not. We all remember how Russia started to hire people from prisons to fight in a war. Almost 1.5 years later, Ukraine started to do the same thing. Some of those Russian prisoners who got hired were not paid the money because basically they were just promised the amnesty in case they are going to survive. Survival rate in those squads of death basically is almost zero, next to zero. But of course there are still some prisoners who somehow get away with that and survive. And so they come back, they get amnestied, but apparently they don't get the money that they think they deserve for fighting the war against Ukraine, the money that are being paid for the soldiers who sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense. But apparently they are not getting the money from there. BBC has found at least 20 cases where those prisoners are literally suing the government for not paying the money back. Well, even though it was illegal to let you out of the prison at the first place, okay? I don't know. It's kind of funny to try to sue the Russian government. Good luck. I don't know. Maybe they didn't realize what country are they living in yet. We'll see. Maybe that's gonna change their minds. This is a video from the city of Birobidzhan, Jewish Autonomous Oblast, in the far east of Russia. Actually, I've lived in the city of Birobidzhan for quite a while, maybe for 6 to 7 years. And apparently, we can see there is a hockey game going on. Those are not youngsters or professionals. This is just 2 teams of people who like to play hockey. One of them is the team of FSB. Yeah, like some colleagues from FSB decided to make a hockey team because I guess they like to play hockey. The FSB team is black. And the white team, white and black, is just some regular entrepreneurs, businessmen of the city who wanted to play competitively and even got some kind of public in the back. At some point, FSB team has started a fight. So let's look at it. So yeah, basically there's just a fight. I'm not gonna play this whole video, even though it's might be quite entertaining. The point is that it was FSB in a black uniform who has started the fight. Because if you look here precisely, look at these 2 players, number 2 and number something else. the black one starts to punch him first when he approaches when the white player approaches. This guy from FSB side just basically punch him in the face, and he starts to fight back, and then he punch him again. And look at this two, 1 and 2 other ones are attacking this guy who wasn't even doing anything. So basically it's the black team who was the bully, who started the fight. But what's really hilarious is after the fight was over, okay, nobody died, everything's fine, yeah, a couple of broken bones, whatever. Police has started an investigation, and by that investigation they found out that nobody from FSB were found guilty. It was all the white team players, basically entrepreneurs, businessmen teams. They are the ones who started the fight. They were charged with felonies, and now they can go to jail up to 7 years for, I guess, fighting back FSB. How dare you fight back FSB? We are like gods. That's how NKVD felt themselves back in the USSR. Solzhenitsyn mentioned this a lot in his books. And apparently, right now, FSB starts to feel like they are better and better than the rest of the Russian people, even those who has the money. So that's why, and police covers them pretty much, but it's just hilarious because they obviously started the fight themselves first, and it was absolutely other people who were found guilty for that. Yaroslav Dronov, or Shaman, the the most Z singer of Russia, he came up to this talk show, and he decided to answer to the haters. I guess to myself too. Why does he think it's okay to hate everything Western, to say all Westerners wants to kill Russia and all of them are evil and stuff, but at the same time using Apple phones, driving Mercedes, yada yada yada, all that Western brands to own it. I'm pretty sure even this jacket he wears is not made in Russia. Anyway, so he has a counter argument to our question. Why does he still use Western products if he hates the West? So let's see what he has to say.
Некоторые мои недоброжелатели о том, что ну как же, он же русский.
Some of my haters are saying, well, he's Russian.
А что же у него там, не знаю, там телефон американский.
And why is his phone is American?
Там машина немецкая.
And his car is German.
Или там еще что-нибудь, ну вот в таком вот ключе, в духе. А я отвечаю.
And I reply.
Я понимаю, что очень просто. Мы же ведь не знаем, а может быть создатели.
We don't know, but maybe the creators
этих американских телефонов,
of those American phones,
создатели этих технологий,
or creators of those technologies,
или создатели этих автомобилей,
or creators of those cars,
а может быть они вдохновлялись произведениями там Петра Ильича Чайковского.
Maybe they were inspired by the music of Pyotr Alexeyevich Tchaikovsky, which is a composer,
когда они создавали
when they were creating this.
этот телефон. Или там произведениями там Достоевского или
Or maybe by the novels of Dostoevsky or Bulgakov,
которые по всему миру известны.
Who is known
тогда бы без
worldwide.
этих произведений вообще этих технологий не было и этих телефонов не было. Попробуйте.
Maybe if not for those pieces of art, there would be no phones and no technologies at all.
Просто подумать об этом. Мы же
Try to think about it.
не знаем, как это было и чем люди вдохновлялись.
We don't know what people were inspired by. So apparently, Shaman is doing a really funny thing. Firstly, basically he says that it might be that all the technologies in the world which he is using might be inspired by the Russian art or by the Russian culture, which is long time dead, by the way. When communists came to power, they have killed Russian culture. They've literally sent away the most prominent Russian culture people. All the artists, all the writers, all the historians, all researchers, most of the scientists were basically just kicked out or killed. Russian culture, as we know of it, as of Dostoevsky or as Bulgakov or as Tolstoy, is basically dead. And now he is saying that, well, maybe those who created Apple, who make Mercedes or all those technologies that he's using nowadays, when he's coming home and he's using his smart vacuum cleaner and watching his flat plasma or using a refrigerator. Basically, I'm using all this. I hate the West. I'm using all this because people in the West who created this might have get inspired by Russia, so it makes the technology Russian. Is that what he's trying to say? This is a really random, weird statement. Well, as shaman it is overall. The guy who wears like and dresses up like a Nazi literally has a freaking clip music video where he's dressed up as a Nazi with a Russian flag on his shoulder, and yeah, it's quite hilarious. One of the newest Russian inventions: recyclable legs. Literally, this is a video of the veteran of the war who lost his legs, and in a local hospital they've made him legs out of freaking plastic bottles and scotch. Jeez. Somebody is asking there, who's next?
Я следующий. Следующий уже есть.
Look at it. It's literally plastic bottles and bunch of tape or scotch. Jeez. In this picture, we can see a memorial in Karelia, which is in the northwestern part of Russia, is being opened to the law enforcement of the Soviet Union, and specifically NKVD, like a secret police, and also the agents of SMERSH, which is basically a counterintelligence service in the USSR. It was basically mostly killing its own people for allegedly treason, and they were pretty much killing everyone without even courts, just because they had some kind of doubts about the person. And apparently all of them were, during 90s, those people were hated by the whole society a lot. But now, since the USSR and Stalin gets back into fashion, they literally open a memorial to those people who has killed more Russians than any other service in the world has done. And they are building a memorial to the people who has repressed more than 10 million of people. There are different estimates. There are estimates of Solzhenitsyn, of independent non-profit organizations, of the Russian government, which is a little small than all other ones. But the thing is, they've killed a lot of people for nothing, just because they felt they have the power. And now memorials are being built in the memory of those criminals. Here, NKVD, Alexander Yeliseyevich Padalka. KGB, which is KGB, KGB, SMERSH, counterintelligence, KGB over there too. Basically, KGB are being praised right now, and the whole governor comes to this memorial to open it. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to support Ukraine. There are also ways to support my channel. Links are in the description below. Thank you and see you in the next videos. Bye.